partisan hypocrisy. So we've seen this, it's killing the country, and each side loves to call out corruption and censorship and overreach, but not when their side does it. So Anna, go, buddy. This is awesome.
Basically, Bill Maher did this excellent monologue recently on his show, Real Time with Bill Maher, where he kind of called out the partisan hypocrisy, where let's say you're on the left has held views in favor of something for a long time. In comes Donald Trump, he purports to want to support the same policy, and all of a sudden the Democrats are against it. I thought this was a fantastic segment, and the point that I want to make before we toss to the video is know who you are, what your values are, and what your principles are, and stick to them. Don't get swayed by partisan tribal BS, because there might be some areas in which there's a coalition on the left and maybe a group of people on the right that can work together to get policy they both want passed. And that's never going to happen if, like, your default reaction is to just automatically take the opposite position from your political rivals. So with that in mind, let's take a look at a part of Bill Maher's segment.
And finally, New Rural Americans must get over the fantasy they have that they are a people of core convictions and deeply held beliefs. They're not. They only care which side is saying something. Let me give you 10 million examples. This car used to be fire. Now it's on fire. Back when Elon Musk was presumed liberal, liberals loved electric cars and conservatives hated them. Then Elon went MAGA, and while the car market grew by 10% last month, sales of electric vehicles were down 5%, and not just Teslas, all EVs. Conversely, MAGA Nation used to hate EVs. 2 years ago, 71% of Republicans said they would not consider buying an electric car. Trump said they were for, quote, radical left fascists, Marxists, and communists. Now he's selling them on the White House lawn.
Everything's computer.
That's right, Tarzan. Everything's computer.
So good and so true.
Oh my God, spot on.
Yeah, so it's...
The car's still there, by the way. I saw it the other day.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's just parked in front of, like, the West Wing.
That's
so funny.
It's just there. Well, because it's like, who else would park a red Tesla there? And it's like, oh, because it's his.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's just there.
No one drives it, it's just there.
So look, the electric vehicles are one thing, but when we're talking about policy and political leadership, we want solutions to very real problems that we're experiencing. You're just never going to come to any solution if the party is so divided that even if, like, internally you agree with something the left is saying, or you agree with something the right is saying, your political rivals are saying, you just automatically have to say, no, I'm against it because of the tribalism.
Right.
And also because your in-group will probably come down hard on you if you're willing to concede that the opposite party is making a good point about something.
100%. To go back to the example of the big, beautiful bill, there's so many yes men who, the reason why they weren't having serious negotiations when people like Thomas Massey were speaking out about it is because so many people said yes automatically because they do not want to be seen as the one who's standing in Trump's way, even though it would have potentially affected the deficit, right? Going back to things that we were talking about in previous episodes. So, yeah, I can absolutely see that happening.
I have a question. Is it not true that the last time we successfully balanced the budget is when Clinton worked with Gingrich across the aisle? I think that is the friggin' last time, guys.
Exactly.
That was the last time we had a surplus, an economic surplus in this country.
But you had a coalition between these two guys. Like, they formed a partnership and solved the problem. I don't think, and the point being, when the two sides come together on a common good, is that not the only way forward?
I see it as an important way forward on the select issues where I think you can have bipartisan collaboration. And look, for me right now, what I'm seeing is there is a group of Republicans who have deviated from the neoconservatism of the Bush era. And I share a lot of their beliefs and their views on foreign policy, right? Not wanting to engage in these foreign interventions, not wanting to spend hundreds of billions of dollars propping up, some country in their war. Like, I just think we need to stop and think about, all right, if we're going to engage in some foreign conflict, what does this do to benefit the American people?
Right.
Because we're using American taxpayer dollars in, supplying weapons and intel to whatever country we're engaging in.
Jillian, you brought up a really good point about Gingrich, because shortly after this deal, you know what happened? He sent out a memo to the entire party basically telling everyone to escalate the rhetoric. and to, you know,
Why?
use the most
would be the
vicious
reason?
language towards the Democrats, because that's the way that he won. He got the House back. He got the House majority back. And another thing is, right now, the incentives completely shifted. We don't have 435 members of the House of Representatives. We have 435 social media influencers.
Oh, God,
and
so
they
true.
do everything they can to make it on Fox or MSNBC if you're on the left side, or Fox News or Newsmax on the other side. They parade for the cameras. They go after that viral hit. It doesn't matter. They're not in Congress to actually do something useful to the American people. They're in Congress to juice up their fundraising numbers for the quarter. They're in Congress to dial for dollars, to make sure that they raise X amount of dollars, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they need to meet. It's all about that. It's all about re-election. They spend so much time on the phone begging for money. That's essentially what they do all day.
Jack?
Well, I think one of the big things, I asked a question about this at the White House at a press conference not too long ago, is that we have seen elements of the far left completely embracing hardcore violence. And I see this with the Luigi Maggioni and Luigi Maggioni, his supporters, and this idea that, so you have the populist left and the populist right, and they're two different camps that exist. And to your point, there's a lot of overlap between a lot of this on economics, on foreign policy. Honestly, it should be on immigration as well, because Bernie Sanders used to be like an immigration restrictionist, and he actually said open borders, that's a Koch brothers policy.
He did say that during a Vox interview with Ezra Klein in 2015.
Which it
Look
is,
it up.
by
He
the
did
way.
say that, and he was accurate about that.
And there are so many of us that are totally against that. But the issue that I also see is that, like, so with populism, populism can be dangerous. And in some populism, it's to say, hey, we're mad at the system and we want to do something about it. So you get one side of populism is reformers, and we want to fix the system. And so if MAGA, Trump, whatever you call it, America First, is going to be successful, it's reforming the system. The other side is we need to kill everybody and take their stuff. And that's Luigi Maggioni.
I think that goes a little too far. I would not say it is a core belief of left-wing populists that we need to murder people and take their stuff.
It's a core belief of left-wing populists.
There are unhinged lunatics, sure, who advocate for violence. I agree with you on that. However, I think it's a small group. There's also encouragement of violence on the far right as well. You have to acknowledge that, right?
That is true.
Well, what I'm saying though is there's a huge track record of populist leftist movements in places like France, Russia, Spain, China that have led to abject warfare, civil war, revolution.
Sure, yes,
in the past.
but we're talking about the United States, and I'm talking about the American left. I don't think that it is a wide-held.
I see a lot of Luigi hats. I see a lot of Luigi hats out there.
I mean, there were people on the right also supportive of what Luigi did.
Which was insane, by the way. Which was insane. Completely insane to give that any credence whatsoever.
Well, let me just say, I do not in any way support murdering people. That didn't solve anything, right? No. Obviously, it didn't do anything to fix our healthcare system. But instead of just condemning the people who are cheering on Mangione, can we just at least acknowledge, man, our system, our healthcare is so messed up that people feel comfortable publicly celebrating a murderer.
Right.
You know, that's an issue.
Yeah.
And it's going to become worse. It's going to get, I mean, you're going to probably see more and more cases like that unless we fix this system.
More and more assassinations?
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you.
And this is something that started during COVID as well.
This is why you need to put a clamp down on anyone who performs this type of stuff, because it always gets out of hand. And that's my point.
How would you propose doing that, though, without violating civil rights, civil liberties, things like that?
Well, I wrote a whole book about it. But
giving him a life sentence.
What you do is, and maybe we're talking past each other a little bit, because what I've said is, understand the grievance and then try to fix the situation.
Yes.
Anyone who takes matters into their own hands, like a Maggione, you know, that obviously they need to be locked up, they need to be taken care of, et cetera, take them off the battlefield, whatever it is, but also understand the grievance that's driving it. That's where the populist,
and there's no
hopefully a
consequence for
successful
that guy, though,
populist right
Jack.
comes in.
The guy that
Agreed
he
on that.
shot, and I'm not suggesting it's ever okay to kill someone, but this is a guy that I think, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I had covered this actually in detail with Brigham Bueller, that ended up driving up the cost of insurance for millions of people, and a bunch of people got cut from care. And then he shorted the stock with insider trading and crashed a bunch of pension funds for firefighters and teachers. and was not paying a price. So I totally appreciate, we've gone, again, once again, off the east of it, but I appreciate you cannot have this vigilante.
It never ends well.
I get it, but there's never seemingly any consequence for the other side. Which, if I could circle back to why we all need to be on the same page about things that are nonpartisan.
Jillian, but
healthcare.
in this case, literally there are consequences for the other side. Have you seen United Healthcare stock? It's like this right now. You know, they're under criminal investigation.
Yes, but did this shine a spotlight on it?
Did.
Okay, but then he accomplished what he wanted.
Well.
So why did he have to kill this guy for that to happen is sort of the bigger question. And
because he wanted to. Because he wanted the notoriety, because he wanted, and you see this, by the way, difference, it's between like Zoomer extremists and millennial extremists.
Okay.
Because millennials would do like, you know, mass movements, BLM marches, in some forms, Antifa, you know, form this or, you know, this group, that group. With Zoomers, it's much more like, I want to be the person who goes viral because I want the notoriety. So you saw this with Luigi Angioni. You saw this with Thomas Matthew Crooks, who attempted to kill President Trump. You saw this with this most recent guy.
That 25-year-old anti-natalist or something?
He's an anti-human.
Is this the guy that
the IVF clinic
guy?
bombed an IVF clinic because he hates humanity and actually hates God, basically, for creating him and him being born.
Wow.
The boys are not all right. Like there's a lot of like pain in this country.
Amy, I know you wanted to talk about something.
Just one quick second. I just feel like there has been a social conditioning of this again since COVID, and I know I keep coming back to COVID. I probably sound very repetitive.
COVID screwed everybody
the fiery
up.
but mostly peaceful protest.
For sure.
Fiery but mostly peaceful protest. Do you remember that headline? The way that violence became normalized during the COVID era, it's really set us up for everything that we're running into now. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it was contrived and it was by design.
Amy, thank you so much for bringing that up because I happen to be on the street that they burned down in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
And
what street?
Rittenhouse Square. They burned it down.
You were in Rittenhouse?
I moved after the fire.
Oh, okay.
But they burned my street down.
I went to Temple.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I'm so glad
Rittenhouse
you were there.
Square is
but
gorgeous.
it wasn't in the summer of 2020.
Oh,
they
I know.
burned down the entire street. My street smelled like rubber. I have no idea why for an entire month, and I had to keep my windows closed. So do not tell me it was a summer of love. It was traumatic for everyone involved, and it actually caused me to move. I had to move. The damage was so great. And so they were heralded, though, as this emblem of racial justice. And, you know, they're just such hypocrites. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Look, I think the problem was the media did lie. There was violent looting and rioting at night, right? But what really sucks is I think the right to protest is important. And there were most of the protesters during the day weren't causing problems, were protesting something that they feel passionately about. And I hate the fact that they're getting defamed and conflated with the wreckers, right? With these sorry, I don't want to curse, but like the
Please curse.
Call them that. They are assholes.
they are.
They're paid agitators too. Who knows?
absolute assholes. Okay, many of whom, by the way, if you look at video, white guys like just breaking into businesses, causing all sorts of
push
problems.
back on the white guy thing.
No, there were plenty of people of color
There's a
doing
lot
it
of
too.
black violence in
mixed
there.
bag in there.
But look, it's just really interesting because whenever you see
point,
some of
Antifa
these
is
like
largely
radical
white.
movements, whenever you do see these radical movements, the people who speak up the loudest and rile people up the most. I mean, just take a look at the videos. The activists tend to be white, okay, and they rile people up.
The people who burned down my street were black, though. I'm very
definitely.
Yeah.
They were black.
In
We're
Chaz,
predominantly.
They were black
in
without
Chaz
a single
in
doubt.
Seattle,
I'm just saying, like, I
Simone
can't
was black,
pretend that something didn't happen because it's like politically correct. I'm not blaming. I'm not saying
no,
you're doing
I'm not
that,
saying
but a lot
that
of
there
people
weren't
I
black
know
people involved.
were like all the white people are the ones stealing, and it's like
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
there are definitely people of color in the mix there.
Yeah,
It's just everybody was behaving badly, not just the white guys.
Well, I'm also, now that I'm out of the Democratic Party, I can tell the truth, and the truth is they were predominantly black, and I have footage on my phone that I sent to my family of black people zooming into the Lululemon down the street and just grabbing everything and going into the Nike
Right,
store.
but that wasn't protesters. That was just looting. It's just
Those
straight
are
up
those
looting.
were protesters.
That's
And you
the
see
point I'm trying to
and you see
make. They
this-
did that.
And you see this,
But, Jack,
you
they
see this
did
in
that in the-
disaster situations.
They did that
like,
in the-
oh, it's a disaster. We got to go hit the Foot
We're
Locker.
gonna have those people
But
take
the
advantage of
problem
the
is,
situation.
They did that in the name of George Floyd. They had people, they were interviewing
That was
people.
the
on the
pretense
street.
upon which they
protest
were
to behave
allowed
the way they were behaving.
exactly to
Look,
be protesting when people couldn't visit their grandmother or
by
die
the
in
way,
a hospital.
by the way, what you're doing right here is proving my point that I said earlier, that when you allow violence, it always gets out of hand.
Right.
I agree with that completely.
It immediately starts getting out of
100%.
hand, and you get opportunists and whatever color they are come in and start committing more violence, and they say, oh, this is righteous
100%.
because of whatever. And we see this throughout history where people will take whatever the movement is, whatever the grievance is, and many times they are legitimate grievances, like people with healthcare issues, et cetera, but then when it comes down to it, it's who gets more control, the violent people.
Yeah.
And who gets more ability to commit harm is the violent people. And those movements get worse and worse. So that's why I'm saying meet the grievance, but also for anyone who is committing violence, you got to come down like Singapore on those guys.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we did the opposite thing, and you had Kamala Harris going out there raising money for the people.
She
who
sure
were,
did.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. I want
And
to.
the tweet is still up, by the way. She still hasn't deleted it.
She hasn't. Why would she?
Because it's a wildly unpopular position right now. But I want to bring it back to the initial idea real quick before we close it. And you brought up COVID, the hypocrisy piece, because health is really at the center of this one,
Yes.
obviously for me. So to make a point, whether you like the vaccine or you didn't like the vaccine, when it was Trump's vaccine, it was a miracle. Operation Warp Speed. And you were watching everybody on the left talk about how they would never touch
Oh,
Trump's
yeah, yeah,
vaccine.
yeah.
Now, Trump's out.
Including Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the presidential debate, and he's like, they're like, oh, it's not going to be out till the summer of, I think, 22 or whatever, or summer of 21. And he's like, it's going to be out a lot sooner. And they're making fun of him. Cut to, he's out of office, Biden's in office, and within a matter of weeks, the vaccine is out. And now everybody on the right doesn't want to
Exactly.
take the vaccine. And everybody on the left is like, you're killing my grandma. But this kind of tribalism deeply hurts the American people, and we do it ourselves, not just the politicians. So I would simply say to everybody watching, the person that's getting hurt here is you. Because whether or not the vaccine was good or bad, if we had come together to demand proper safety testing for this vaccine, which we were told they had, but in truth, they pushed it through an emergency use loophole. And it's been known now that the NIH was studying people who were injured during the vaccine trials as they're rolling out these vaccines. So to bring it home, the hypocrisy is hurting the American people in every way possible, from every angle possible.
Amen.
And if we stop engaging with it and think about who is manipulating this, it's to our detriment, so don't buy into it.
That's
Yeah,
totally.
and sorry to interrupt you, but I would just say, even if your political opponents are making a claim and you want to just automatically disbelieve anything they're saying,
Yes.
just for yourself, do the due diligence and look into it. And look into it in good faith. Because they might be accurate, they might be making a good point. They might be full of crap. You never know.
Petroleum-based food dyes, fluoride in the water. Do some homework. It's your body.
Or celebrities in spirit cooking.
Exactly.
Or the most recent example is tariffs. You know, Democrats were for it once upon
true,
a time, and now
true.
they hate it so much.
Video
You
after
have-
video of
Exactly.
them saying-
Nancy Pelosi praising to the heavens the virtue of tariffs. And Bernie Sanders was in favor of tariffs, but all of a sudden it's like the worst thing in the world.
Protectionism was a left-wing issue
was.
for like most of political history.
The thing is,
health.
Trump derangement
and
syndrome.
health. I said this. I've said this so many times to reporters, and nobody like takes it up on me. I'm like, when did Republicans ever run on health and win? That's just never been a thing that we've ever had any.
The left ceded the mantle.
No, he ran on tariffs. Like that
I'm gonna
was
say he ran on
tariffs and
tariffs,
immigration. Those are the
but-
two things that he repeated in
but-
every speech and every public
No.
event.
What I mean to say is though is that health has always been a Democrat issue.
True.
Obamacare was all health care, and Republicans were always stuck in this horrible position of having to say like, well, I support pharma and I support the healthcare companies, while all these horrible stories are coming out. It is not politically popular to do so. And then suddenly, through this merger with RFK and MAHA, which, by the way, I would, even as a MAGA guy, I'll say this: MAHA is the #1 political movement in America right now. Currently, it is the #1. It's just true. So that's just an accurate statement. And so you have this ability to flank to the left on healthcare. So Republicans ran to the left of Democrats on healthcare, which is like,
And it's not just that, but
nobody talks about
you know
it.
what
But
I
here's the
think
thing.
a big part of it is, and Jillian, you can probably speak to this, the left went so the opposite way, where it's like, yeah, you can be 400 pounds and you're really healthy and you're beautiful.
The more
it's
obese, the better.
Eventually, it's going to flip back the other side, and the party of common sense is going to come in and say, well, hey, maybe it's not super healthy to be 400 pounds, and to tell everyone that big is beautiful and health at any size.
Did you hear
right?
what RFK Jr. said during the congressional hearing in response to the Democratic members of Congress who were lambasting him? He said, I actually managed to get food dye out in like a few days. What have you guys been doing? Like,
Zero.
Exactly.
It's been an abject failure.
And now they're against him because he's,
He's in the Trump administration.
Exactly.
He endorsed Trump.
Yes,
Yes.
is the legitimate.
But, okay, final thing I'll say
Yes.
about this, because I just, it's one thing, it is one thing to engage in the rhetoric to give people the illusion that you're outflanking the left. However, if you pay close attention, there are some areas in which the Trump administration is doing things that are not good for the health of Americans. For instance, rolling back regulations that banned forever chemicals
Yes.
in our drinking water.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
But
Which
could
chemicals?
I just say
Forever
one
chemicals.
thing? Because
so
I've
it's
been
in plastics and stuff like that. It seeps into our drinking supply.
It
just
is-
Oh,
our
I know
supply.
RFK has been talking about microplastics.
I think RFK probably wanted to keep those regulations in place. There's
Thank you.
probably someone else in the Trump
there
administration.
you go.
that wanted to get
He's
rid
not
of
in
it.
charge of that. So
'Cause it's the EPA.
You know,
Yeah.
people cross-pollinate the topics, understandably so, because environmental health impacts human health. But he's not in charge of those rollbacks. So he's constantly getting attacked for something he's not in control of. And I would just simply put that out there. And I know I think in large part, we all agree with you that we need to protect the health of the environment.
It's not-
100%.
Anna's totally right about the chemicals, and I have to say something brave, so please give me a credit
All right,
for this,
kid.
because I'm going to break from Trump here, but I have to. This is the issue that kept me as a Democrat for a decade. I would have left sooner had Republicans been stronger on this issue, and that's the environment. I'm sorry. I care deeply, and actually, it started with Nixon. He started the EPA. The Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act came into being under Republican leadership. We ought to take that back and not allow Democrats to monopolize it. But Trump could be better on this issue. He really can, and I have to be intellectually honest. He's talking about drill, baby, drill. He's talking about curtailing EPA regulations, but honestly, we shouldn't be doing that because there are American lives at stake.
It's tough when there's American jobs tied to it. And
Yeah.
you know, I agree with you.
I have to tell
but
the truth
that's
on
the
that.
You're
like.
against drilling?
Yeah, I am.
Well, I mean, do you like power?
I like renewable
That's where-
energy. I'm very
that-
Elon
that is
in
where
this
it comes
regard.
from.
I'm with RFK Jr. on this matter. I'm environmentalist. Like, that's how I came
She doesn't
up.
fly private either. Like, she's had opportunities to fly
Only
private. and she said no.
once in 2013, I had a logistical nightmare.
Not pulling the Taylor
But,
Swift on that one.
I care deeply. Like, I wrote my college thesis on this. This is my issue. It's my
And I
baby.
feel you. I hate that they make it a left-wing thing. When I say that I care about environmentalism too, like, I don't believe in global warming. I believe in climate change.
I'm not talking about
makes
that. I'm
sense.
talking about air pollution,
Yeah, I mean,
water,
all of these things. Why have they made it so that it's a leftist issue to care about the environment?
True,
And
yeah,
care about-
why?
Thank you.
I
Business.
don't like that.
Especially when you look at it.
Business
one of the
slash
funniest-
trickle-down economics slash
Yeah.
jobs slash business
But
slash
by
business
the way,
slash business.
to the credit of some Republican voters, they were not happy with Trump allowing for drilling on public lands because guess what? There are Republican voters who love the public lands. They like to go
Yes.
hunting, fishing. They like to enjoy our national parks and things like that. And so it's a balancing act because right now in California, for instance, a lot of oil companies are leaving. A lot of people are losing their jobs because of environmental regulations. So I get that it's a balancing act.
Yeah,
At
but
the same time,
Look at these giant windmill farms. Like, where
Yeah.
are the environmentalists on that? With these massive, and they're right offshore. You can't even take a picture on the beach with this, like, and
killing
they're like, oh,
birds.
they're killing birds and the whales, by the way. Where they're all washing up on shore, and they're like, "Oh, this is renewable and it's better." And is it better? We had a McGitmo actually. It was ridiculous.
have they
don't
tied
generate.
that to the windmills, the whales washing up?
I believe there was something. I could be wrong, but there was something about that.
I just want to remind folks,
and so it's like, I hear you. I hear
I'm
you,
not
and
saying that I'm
I'm
an
not like
extremist
being
on
a
that.
shill for like fossil
wait,
fuel or something
I'm-
here, but I
Jack,
do like the country having energy.
How about
Yes, I
nuclear?
agree.
And
I should go nuclear.
100%
That is the answer.
for
Definitely.
nuclear.
Yeah.
Fifth generation nuclear energy is amazing.
Yep.
It's
It's
like, I mean, think
clean.
about it. Think about it. We found magic rocks that produce unlimited magical energy. And because there was like one problem one time where somebody screwed up the magic rocks that wasn't even in this country.
Well,
we just decided to not
I live
use.
close to 3 Mile Island.
I live close to 3 Mile Island too. And 3 Mile Island showed that the system actually worked because guess what? 3 Mile Island stood there and nobody died. So
Well, it's also been so many years, surely.
it's the 70s.
Yeah,
like we still
like,
have a space program, even though the space program
Jack,
had
I'm with you on
accidents at the
nuclear
time.
energy, but I also want to remind folks, like going back to what Anna and Amy were saying, who was the president who started, you know, the legacy of national parks and protecting our
Teddy
environment?
Roosevelt.
Yes, thank you. Why do Democrats have a monopoly on this issue? We have to take it
Especially
back.
when, if you look at Democrats, they typically don't live anywhere where there's any nature. They're like, you find
so
them,
true.
you always find them in these like giant cities, and
true.
it's actually conservatives that live in the
that's
rural
true.
areas and are constantly getting crapped on as like, oh,
Yeah,
you bunch
so-
of hicks out there, and it's
Right.
like, no, they actually live where there's nature.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this. I've been very vocal on this environmental issue, and you'd be surprised. Conservatives are embracing me on this issue. They are not attacking me. There's the American people
Because they
agree.
get cancer too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yep.
Cancer doesn't see party.
Kids get asthma from the air pollution.
Precisely. Cancer doesn't see you're Democrat or Republican. It does not discriminate. So this is something that we can all rally behind, I believe.
Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.